Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bay State After Hours. I'm your host, Kevin, as always, and today we have Dr. Yamka, who's gonna go over about a new dog food that we got in the store. So, as you guys know, it's kind of difficult for a dog food to get into Bay State because we are very particular about what we bring in because we want to back up everything that we bring in. So we ask all the proper questions. You know, we want to make sure that's all sourced properly. And so we're very particular about what we bring in. So I'm very excited to be introducing this new food that we are starting to sell. So with us today, we have Dr. Yamka.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
Hey, Dr. Yamka. How you doing?
Good. Just go by Ryan. Dr. Yamka seems weird, so Ryan's all good.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Glad
so
to be here.
Why don't we start off with a little bit about yourself? Why don't you tell us about your history? And you look like you have a lot of awards and stuff back there. So
yeah, as you can see, I have expensive wallpaper. For most people, it'd be a lake house in Maine. All of mine went to student loans in the government. So I actually have 5 degrees, 2 bachelors, 1 animal science, 1 in biology. I have my master's and PhD in animal science, actually in canine nutrition. And then I have an MBA as well. I'm also a board certified companion animal nutritionist, professional animal scientist. I'm a fellow with the American College of Nutrition, which is on the human side. Also Pet Age Icon recipient and also a Pet Industry Disruptor Award recipient this past year. So expensive wallpaper. As far as my background, I started out in the industry working for Hill's Pet Nutrition roughly about 20 years ago. I was there for about 8 years, worked in product development, R&D. While I was there, did a lot of publications, was awarded over 50 patents. From there, even though I don't sound like it, I moved back to the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey originally. I worked for Hearts.
Really?
Yeah, New Jersey. I worked for Hearts for a couple years, mainly get out of my non-compete, but it got me to learn about cat litter, training pads, small animals, food, supplements, reptiles, things of that nature. After that, I was senior vice president for Blue Buffalo before and after they went public. After they went public, I left them in about 2016. I started my own consulting gig. Which around that time, my co-founder reached out to me with this idea, which lo and behold became Guardian Pet Food and what you now know as Nobl Foods, the brand.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Nobl Foods?
Yeah, so, when somebody approaches you with all the years of knowledge that I have and says, hey, if you could build it any way you want to, how would you do it? It's a bit overwhelming, right? Because usually when you work with companies, you have sacred cows, right? For example, Hills was founded off their renal diet. And so Hills foods will always be low protein, low phosphorus, and thou shalt not do anything outside of that. So when I was given the keys to drive the car and told to go anywhere you can go, it was fun. And so what we did was we put together a freeze-dried food because we wanted the benefits of raw, but the convenience of dry. But more importantly, I wanted something that was very highly digestible. Both of our meat bars are 90% and above, and people could see those numbers on our website. We wanted to make it legitimately all natural, so not natural with added vitamins and minerals. So we only have 22 ingredients when people read the label versus 75 that you traditionally see. And more importantly, being that we're starting from the ground up, we're able to source everything the way we want to and pick our manufacturer. And so all of our ingredients for our treats and our meat bars are all US and Canadian sourced. And our manufacturer happens to be in Canada because of the food form that we're in. So that bar form that you guys have seen, this is actually novel to us. In fact, if everything goes the way it should, knock on wood, we should get the patent granted here in a couple months. We submitted that well before we decided to call ourselves Guardian and make the Nobl brand. One of the key features, because during my career at Hills, I studied obesity for literally 8 years. And so most people don't measure food with a cup properly, right? They use a coffee mug, sometimes a beer mug, even a beer pitcher. and so we wanted to take that work away from the pet owner. And so each bar is per 25 pounds of body weight. When we originally launched, we didn't have the score lines. That was actually consumer and retailer feedback that we got. So each break point, it breaks pretty easily. That would be per 5 pounds of body weight. And so each bar is 100% complete and balanced nutrition. So it is actually their food for the day.
Yeah. So just going over the ingredients, you mentioned that there's only 25 ingredients, which there really is only 25 or 22 ingredients. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they're all stuff that I can pronounce too, which is amazing.
Nothing to Google.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like sometimes when you're reading the back of a package, you have to feel like you have to be a scientist in order to know what's in it.
Yeah, and that was really the goal, right? So again, not having to live by or have a portfolio to play in, it gave me the ability to play outside of the sandbox, so to speak.
So we're just going to take a quick pause, just so everyone knows. Ryan is giving away a T-shirt and mug set for one of our lucky watchers. So right below me, you can see there's a little riddle that you have to answer. So what is a dog's favorite breakfast? If you text the correct answer to that phone number, you could end up winning the shirt and mug set. So let's go back to the ingredients real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are all the ingredients sourced in Canada or this
Canada,
China?
Yeah, Canada and the US. We do get some beef from New Zealand from time to time. But in the air, if people know me and been reading my blog for Pet Food Industry magazine, they know that transparency for me is paramount in the industry, right? Especially given past lives and incidents in the industry like melamine in 2007 and things of that nature. So what we actually do, if you go to our webpage and you go to noblefoods.com and you scroll down to nothing to hide, everything to share, underneath each of the food types that we have, you'll see a fact sheet, which if you click on that fact sheet, you'll actually see third-party typical nutrient analysis and our digestibility results, right? And more importantly, on your ingredient part, if you click on ingredient sourcing, we will tell you where every single one of our ingredients come from, literally every single ingredient. And so they're all going to be a little different depending on where they're coming from. But right now, everything is US and Canadian sourced. Absolutely. And we also tell you why those ingredients are in there. And, what I will tell people is we do break the rules. And when I say that is when you look at the top 5 ingredients, everybody tells you, look at that and it's indicative of the food. Well, and then, hey, look at where's vegetables and plants and all that stuff come in. Well, I will tell you, and I can tell you, is when you see chickpeas on the label, that's included at 3%. So our meat and liver is making up 85 to 87% of the formula. And the rest of those 17 ingredients are making up the back 13 to 15%.
Wow, so it's really like rich in protein then, real
very much so, very much so. And that's why you only have to feed one bar. And so that one bar, if you had to put it in kibble terms, would be roughly about 2 sandwich baggies worth of kibble in equivalent.
So the other thing I noticed that you don't have any like vitamin packs in there.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
How are you able to meet the nutrition values without any vitamin packs and stuff?
That's part of the novelty with us, right? and the proprietary nature. Obviously, when you're playing in the raw freeze-dried category, you're not going through high retort, high pressure, high heat situations, right? And that's where you lose a lot of your vitamins, and usually not so much the minerals. They're added in there because of how people balance the food, right? And it's actually in many cases cheaper to add that vitamin mineral premix than it is to put in the goodies, if you will. And so when you see the fact that we're adding in chickpeas and stuff like that, because we're not required to use carbohydrates for expansion and things like that you have with kibble, we're actually using those guys for sources of potassium and vitamin C, vitamin E. And so we can do that because we don't go through the high heat processing.
So this one that I have in particular is the turkey and duck. So there's 2 proteins in here. Does all of Nobl's brands have 2 proteins in it? And why do you guys choose 2 proteins?
Yeah, so we choose 2 proteins because we're not going to. I personally don't believe in protein splitting, right? And you know what? If it's going to be a beef formula, let it be a beef formula. I don't want to see beef lung, beef heart, beef liver, beef whatever, right? And so for us to do that and to use the highest quality meats, and you can see in our treats what we're using, it's the same meats that go into our food, right? So the chicken's the chicken, the heart's the heart, and the liver's the liver. So when we bring in the meat and the liver, we're actually using meat and liver. In fact, once COVID lifts, we're going to do behind the scenes footage that we'll actually put on our website for people to see. What you see is pretty much, it looks like ground meat because everything is blended together, right? And there's nothing that's a mystery behind it. And so that's why we do it, because you need complementary proteins. Beef isn't an ideal protein. Chicken is not an ideal protein. You put them together, they make an ideal protein. Obviously, turkey and duck tend to be your novel protein forms. And so we put them together. In fact, we're actually launching a vegan one as well. But we'll also do a couple other varieties here in the near future.
So is Nobl is raw then? Is what it is.
There's no cook step to it. We do have a proprietary kill step, which is required because since we're making in Canada, you have to have something to come over to the US, which is why you don't see Canadian raw companies selling product in the US. In fact, unbeknownst to us, we found out thanks to Champion moving their freeze dry equipment down to Bowling Green, we're the only Canadian-made freeze-dried company as of today. Yeah, so
awesome.
it is, and more importantly, to find somebody who was able to do our patented process of the bar forming, the formula all natural, 2 ounces, nutrient dense, all that, highly digestible. It took a while for us to find somebody. I mean, that's the reality of it. We've been around since 2017 to help put it in perspective. And so, identifying the proper ingredients, the proper format, more importantly, the proper food safety protocols and things of that nature was paramount to us. In fact, unlike most other companies, we choose to only work with manufacturers that are Safe Quality Foods certified. Which is a third-party food safety certification. So I'm saying, don't trust me, trust a non-government organization, right?
Trust in your entire team, even the stuff that you're bringing in.
Exactly. And so it makes sure that I can sleep better at night, as well as my co-founder.
So being a raw product, do you have to add water to it in order?
Absolutely not. So being that it's so nutrient dense and it's only a 2 ounce bar, right? You think about the kibble example that I gave you, that would be 10 ounces, right? And so you simply give them the bar. So if you have a 25-pound dog, you give them half a bar in the morning, half at night. Really no bowl is required. Some people still will want to break it up, potentially use it as a topper or add water or broth. That's up to them, but it's not required. Not required at all.
So I know you touched base a little bit on the safety procedures, but why don't you go a little bit more in depth on how you guys make sure that you keep it safe for, people to handle? And
Sure. So, with all of our foods that go out the door, the reason why we put our typical nutrient analysis out there, which you'll see it goes beyond AFCO. So when I say, don't believe me, look at the data. When I tell you that, hey, we have literally chickpeas is 3% and the rest of it is making up to 15%. We have analyzed starch and added sugar numbers on our typical nutrient analysis, right? Which is they're both below 10. In fact, they're below 7 in both cases. And so we do that. We analyze taurine, carnitine, all that stuff. And so you see, we're routinely analyzing for everything. Right. We're not doing the big show of saying, hey, we're pumping out millions of pounds and I'm only looking at the guarantee. I'm looking at everything. So from a nutrient standpoint, everything is kosher and copacetic. Now, the other part of it, which becomes crucial, is obviously the microbial side. Right. And that's usually where most companies get jammed up. And so we, as part of our import process and part of our SQF process and part of my process, because otherwise I wouldn't work with them, they do routine environmental testing, which means they're swabbing everything in the area, make sure it's clean, because God forbid you do have an issue, you want to be able to identify and isolate the issue in the plant, right? Yeah. But they also test all outbound going finished goods as a requirement, and we do it for multiple critters, if you will, so salmonella, listeria, things of that nature. And it's not a must do, it's have to do in my mind, because I don't want to have to worry about it. I don't want to have to worry about it when you feed it in your store and things of that nature, and other people feed it. I recommend it. I feed it, right? And so I treat it no different than how I would feed my own animals. And I don't say that as a lip service. When I was at Hills, I was doing phone calls for calling up vets for the melamine recall. It was a nightmare. In past lives, I've had to deal with recalls and literally lead them with the FDA. It was a nightmare. Don't want to be there.
I can only imagine. It's tough on the retail end of it. I can only imagine being higher up in the chain, how much of a pain that is.
Oh, well, one Thanksgiving, I was supposed to be in a cabin in the Poconos enjoying time off, and I was running a recall. It's not fun. It's not fun because A, it's the right thing to do. But B, you shouldn't be there in some cases, right? And some of them are self-inflicted wounds. And so when it comes to that stuff, it's a must-have. And that's why I tell people, even with the elixirs we're going to launch soon, even that group is SQF certified, and they have to maintain that to maintain our relationship. So it's not a, hey, you did it this year. And that SQF certification isn't a one and done. They come in there yearly and they recertify those groups. And so you'll hear other companies talk about different versions of it, whether it's ISO or BRC or whatever, but they all fall under the Global Food Safety Initiative program, which tells you, hey, not only are they following or they've written the procedures down, but they're truly following it. More importantly, you're having somebody else come out that it's not pay to play, right? And they're saying, yes, they are following the procedures, and they go into the weeds. And so if you look at the most recent recalls that we've had in 2019, 2020, and 2021, be it the vitamin D, the salmonella, and the aflatoxin, if those places were third-party certified, they would have been caught, and they probably would have lost their certification or would have been told to fix their certification, and they would have never seen that magnitude of recalls.
Yeah, those recalls have been pretty rough.
They have been, especially since last year. At least for me, because that's where I geek out in that space. Is we all knew it was a bad corn crop in a certain area of the world, and and for Sunshine Mills having their recall in the fall should have been a quick shot over the bow for people to get your crap together and test more. And unfortunately, it wasn't heard. So I don't want to say it is what it is, because obviously animals died, but it's a shame. And
that's why you guys go. That's why you guys go above and beyond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not, I always tell people food safety is not a protocol. It's a culture.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you don't get into that culture mindset of what ifs, you can't put in preventative controls to deal with it, or not deal with it, is the best way to do it.
So just to remind everyone, Ryan is giving away a t-shirt and mug set to one lucky viewer today. So right below us, there's a riddle. What is a dog's favorite breakfast? Text your answer to us, and one lucky winner will get the mug and t-shirt set. So
whoever we choose, we'll make sure we find out your t-shirt size, so you're not wearing a big baggy t-shirt that you're like, what am I going to do with? It'll actually fit you the way it's supposed to fit you.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So the next question that I have was your carbohydrates.
Yeah.
They're pretty low.
They are.
Compared to most dog foods.
Yep.
Why is that?
Don't need them. Right.
You just don't need them?
You don't need them. So what a lot of people don't realize is with kibble, there's a requirement for 30% or more. And that's how they get the expansion at a kibble. If you don't, right, then they're just pellets. Literally pellets.
Yeah.
And so they need that, and they need it for the food science of it, because towards the end of kibble making, what they do is they coat the fat and it absorbs. They also put a liquid palatin and a dry palatin on there. And in some cases you can, or at least I can tell you what plants people are using from a co-manufacturer standpoint based on how it's coated evenly, or if it looks tortoise shell. In the case of raw and freeze dried, being that you're not doing that technology, you're literally forming or making a chub or whatever. Yeah. You don't need that food science, right? And so you dictate it based off of what you need. And so that carb content is really secondarily coming in, because I'm using other guys for potassium and mineral sources and vitamin sources. If I could get it all from liver and meat, I would. Be honest, I'd make it even shorter ingredient list. But obviously it's coming along. And what a lot of people don't realize is dogs and cats, regardless of all the research out there, and mind you, I worked for the guys, right, and literally co-authored chapters in their big books. Carbohydrates are great energy sources for dogs and cats, but they don't need them.
Yeah.
They're the cheaper sources, right? They can take protein, extra protein, the amino acids, deaminate them, and make the sugar that they need for their body. And in fact, one would argue it's better for them for maintaining weight, because it's an inefficient process, right? From an energy standpoint. And so we don't need it. So we don't need it to form it, and we don't need it to hold it. And so we don't add it.
That's it. You don't need it. Yeah. It's simple as that.
I wish I had a better story.
No, that's awesome. Something that you think that might be so complex, is just as simple as you just don't need it, so it's not in there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you can see, and again, for the transparency standpoint, we analyze it. We show you where we are. I don't know any other company that does that. And more importantly, we don't just give you the crude fiber numbers too. We also give you total dietary fiber, which is actually a more important number. And it's usually a lot higher than crude fiber. But we put it there as well, because people that are nutrition savvy, when you read a human label, you're actually looking at total dietary fiber. You're not looking at crude fiber, so they can put it in their terms as well.
I think that's one thing that I love about your company is you guys are so straightforward. When you're on your website, everything is laid out in simple terms.
Right.
it's amazing. I absolutely love it. I love the packaging too, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't know.
But one thing you won't see on there, which a lot of people don't realize, we don't waste any time telling you what we aren't, right? So we have no Ghostbuster claims. We will tell you we are freeze dried, right? We are pending B Corp. Right now we partner with TerraCycle.
Yeah.
But we're actually changing this because in next couple of months, it's starting to roll out now. We'll actually be recycled to packaging, so people can take it to their grocery store or do it at home, depending what state you live in, and they can do it on their own. So it's not a pay-to-play program where you got to ship it in or take it to you and put it in a bin or find
you try to do the right thing, and there's like 100 steps to do it.
Absolutely,
TerraCycle isn't great. You know, it's a great idea.
It's a great alternative. Yeah, it's a great alternative if you can't do the recycled packaging. But we can't, so we're going to. And the thing that's even cooler with our packaging for people that are into the sustainability stuff, which I am, I geek out on, is we actually use digital printing. And so that means we print on a fly, no different than your printer at home, right? And so we don't do like what traditional companies do, where it's for argument's sake, it's a printing press. So they use plates, and there's a plate for each color, and that's literally a capital investment. And when they make a run, they make a run, and they usually have extras. It sits in a warehouse until it gets used. We print on demand. And more importantly, the group that we use is literally 20-minute drive away from our manufacturer up in Canada. So it's about as sustainable as you can get. And so, you know, when you have the ability to build stuff, I don't want to call it the right way because it implies people are doing it the wrong way, but our way, I guess, is
your way. Exactly. I was just going to say that when you're able to design everything your way.
Yeah. And, you know, and with me and Jim, you know, we answer to me and Jim. So it's, you know, we don't have to go ask senior leadership and stuff like that. And so if it's what we believe is the right thing to do, which is being transparent, telling people where ingredients come from. None of that stuff's proprietary, right? Do people want to be transparent and tell you? What's proprietary is who I buy my meat from, because I don't want people competing, right? But to tell you, hey, it's coming from US and Canada and sometimes New Zealand in the case of the meat of the beef, because they're non-mad cow disease country. That's the reason why. But
you guys put a lot of thought into where you get each place too.
Yeah, a lot of history, right? So you figure over 20 years of history in the industry, you learn who the good guys, who the bad guys, where to buy, and more importantly, you know, it's when you build it right, you can price it right and do the right things right from the get-go versus building on top and, you know, in essence, passing on that cost to the consumer later on down the road. So I don't want to be the guy that launches something at this price point, and then like 2 years later, I'm doubling the price because I got you hooked. We don't operate that way.
So another thing on the package, I just had a question about was you're certified B Corporation pending.
Yeah.
What's Corporation B?
Yeah, so people could go to B Corp's website. Since I'm an Eagle Scout, the best way I usually tell people, it's the equivalent of the outdoor code, right? For if you're in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts have a similar version, but they don't call it the outdoor code. My daughters will kill me and my wife because they're all involved in it. But in that, the short of it is you want to leave the place better than you found it, right? Yeah. So in scouting, when you go camping, hiking, whatever, it means cleaning the trails. It's showing that you never set foot there. Well, B Corp is very much similar to that. They're a non-government organization. They look at you for multiple things. What's your sustainability story? How are you doing things? Are you giving back to, you know, certain charities and things like that? All those boxes, obviously, we can check. You know, what are our labor practices? Who do we work with? You know, obviously, a couple of years ago, big thing that hit the press was certain companies getting fish from Thai Union slave ships, right? They're going to make sure that you know your supply chain from beginning to end. You're not doing any of that silly stuff to cut costs, and potentially doing what you're doing. Are you doing harm in any way to the planet, right? And it's not a feel good thing. It goes back to like my food safety comment, right? It's a cultural thing. And so when we built our company and we built our bylaws from the ground up, it was with that in mind. And so people might talk certain aspects of sustainability as a feel good moment. We're actually living it. And to give you an idea, Patagonia is a B corporation, right? And you always hear about them, right? They shut down for a day, or a whole day of profits goes to whatever charity, things like that. That is obviously the tier we strive to be. And so obviously becoming part of that and actually getting that logo is very important, because again, it helps show the transparency of what we do. And again, it's don't trust me, let me show you. Let somebody else, more importantly, tell you I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing.
So you guys considered like a green company then?
We a lot of aspects we are, right. We don't have corporate headquarters. Everything we do logistically. So Jim's background is in distribution logistics. He worked for Purina, Royal Canin, and Blue, which is where I met him. So everything we do is purpose built, right. And that was the other part of everybody asked us, well, will we ever make a raw food? The answer is no. Well, why not? Because I don't want to ship water. Right. And so when I freeze dry a product, I'm not doing it because I believe freeze dried is better than raw, whatever. I think it's easier for people that are feeding kibble to jump into the category, because they don't have to get the worries of raw, right? Because it can be overwhelming to some people. But the reality of it is, I get like 30%, 33% yield out of drying that product. And so what does that mean? In simple terms, for that bar that weighs whatever, that might be 6 ounces that it starts out with. So I could be shipping 4 ounces of water all the way around and everywhere else. Well, that's not a very smart way to do logistics and talk about fossil fuels and things of that nature. And so inadvertently, it's built into us on how we do things. A lot of people don't realize that the pet food industry by design is sustainable, right? With the exception, and I'll say one minor exception, is human grade food companies, because everything we take, the meat trimmings, the meat cuts, the hearts, the livers, whatever, they go to the landfill if they weren't being used for our pets, right? And so a lot of people don't realize that. And so by design, most people are already partially sustainable, right? The question is okay, well, what can you do more? And we focus on the what we can do more part.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. It's good to have a company that's, not just trying to think of dollars and cents, but trying to think of, trying to keep everyone, green, and it's good. I like seeing companies like that.
Appreciate it. It's been fun. It's obviously the more you learn, the more you dive into it. And but we're by no means tree huggers or anything like that, right? We have kids, and we keep them in mind in what we do, right? And hopefully other people behave the same way, so their kids can see the same world, hopefully better.
Just out of curiosity, how many employees do you guys have?
Right now, it's myself and Jim as the founders, and then we got one little rascal that's helping us out, which but outside of that, what we do is we make sure we build good strategic partnerships, which is critical for us. And so as a result, because the things I bring to the table from my background and history, obviously I share that knowledge with the manufacturers and stuff like that. And so as a reward, if you will, they give us rock star access to R&D and stuff like that, where most people don't get that ability. And so from that standpoint, we're able to control, not in a bad way, not that we're micromanaging, but we can control how we grow and, keep the overhead low. So, we're not passing on costs of that type of stuff onto the consumer. Because if we right, decide to expand and get a corporate office and all that stuff, the reality of it is the companies don't eat that margin, right? And they go, hey, I was making $2 today. They're not going to go, I'm making $1.50 tomorrow, but at 100 times the pace, they're going to want to maintain that $2. And so if they need that 50 cents per pound, they're going to pass it on to you guys, right? And so from our standpoint, and especially in the culture of COVID, if it hasn't showed us anything, is you don't need an office, which, you know, also plays into sustainability because, right, it's the lights are on in my house anyway. Why do I have to be on at a corporate location? Why do me and Jim have to drive 30 minutes to get to each other's house and things of that nature? And so we choose the things we do very wisely. Even, you know, talking to manufacturers, it's easier to do it on Zoom and stuff like that. It doesn't mean we don't go visit, we don't go see what they're doing, but we're very conscious of what we're doing when we go there. So it's a value add versus just going for going's sake, right? Which a lot of people tend to do. And we're not 9 to 5 punch in people, right? We work across the US. And so, you know, when we're done here at 7 o'clock, I still got 3 more hours for the West Coast, right? And same up in Canada, because we're in Canada as well. And so from that standpoint, you know, it helps to be an electronic era versus, you know, having to do everything from an office and having tons of employees. And the way Jim and I are, we've never been ivory tower people, working managers or leaders. So we like to get our hands dirty. So, you know, I like to formulate, I like to do things, I like to find out all that stuff. Yeah, sure, I could hire somebody and farm it all out, but that's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we start to wrap up here, this is your last chance to enter into the giveaway, guys. So answer the riddle down below. Text us the answer. We got a ton of texts already, but only a couple of them are right. So if you don't think, if you don't think you texted the right answer, feel free to, you know, send another answer through, and, you know, maybe you'll get it right. So, so we're gonna wrap up a little bit, and we actually have a question here.
Sure.
So let me see. I'll pull it up from Caitlin Steves. So, how would you switch your brand of food, you know, for a dog, switching them from a kibble to your stuff? Because, you know, looking at it, it doesn't look like it would really fill them up.
Sure. You know, and that's the funny thing. It actually does. Before we launched, we did in-home use tests where in a lot of cases, German Shepherds and stuff, you give them a bar, you give them their bowl next to each other. They obviously chose us, but they never touched the bowl of their food, which tells you they're eating to their required nutrients. But Caitlin, great question. The way our product breaks, it breaks like day old bread, so it's easy to break up. It's not powdery, so you can do it as a topper and mix it in.
It literally does like just break apart too.
Yeah, very easily. And you can mix it in whatever you're mixing it in with. If you find that to be problematic, what you can do is break it up over multiple meals in a day. So, you know, if you feed them in the morning and evening, you know, do morning, less amount than you normally do a partial bar in the midday, and then what you feed at night, and then slowly remove one of the bowls and make it another part of the bar. So it's bar and food, and then go over. It really depends on how your dog's doing it. What we've found is a lot of people that try to break it and mix it in, after day 2 or 3, their dogs get hip to it and they actually pull it out and leave the kibble or whatever they're eating on the floor, which is good for us, right?
Yeah.
But if you're trying to transition, it can be tricky. But there really is you know, it really comes up to the dog, because some people will still want to break it up and put it in a bowl. But the reality of it is you can simply give them the piece. They will not leave a crumb behind. In fact, a lot of behaviorists have told us that when they feed the bar, they actually see the dog behave like they do from an ancestral standpoint, whereas they take it and they go and they hide somewhere under a dining room table or whatever to eat it. And, you know, and it's that grab a big piece and go hide so nobody bothers you mentality. But you can try it multiple different ways, but usually if you're doing kibble or whatever, breaking it up and mixing it in. And you can do whatever a third is to do it. It's very highly digestible, so it's going to be, you know, a pretty quick transition time. Most people will see that, especially coming from kibble over, within 3 days, they'll see a reduction in stool volume. And if they go back, they'll see it go back up in 3 days. So it's pretty visual. So I'm not going to tell you take 28-day challenge or whatever. You'll see it in 3 days. And chances are you'll see the energy go up. In lots of cases, when we get the feedback is the dogs, besides getting active, they look healthier, right? And lots of times people think and the reason being is they think they have a 50-pound lab. But it's really a 70, 80-pound lab. And when they start feeding them a bar in the morning and a bar at night for a 50-pound dog, well, that dog becomes a 50-pound dog, right? Yep. So, I'd love to say there's science and all this magic stuff going on, but we make the feeding literally goof-proof, right? Yep. And we try to make the decision-making process goof-proof by leaving all our information on there. And you know what? When you do talk to your veterinarian and they want to know what the heck is this food, they're designed to be printed out as one-pagers. They can print it out and take it with them. It'll have our ingredient list, our digestibility. And you'll see on our packaging it's actually a tested ME in animals. So we know exactly how many calories they're getting, as well as all the nutrients. So that's designed to be printed out and shared. It's not meant to be hidden. It's meant to be, hey, it is there. You'll also notice, you'll see it in typical percentage units, but you'll also see it per 1,000 kcals. That's usually the language the veterinarian speaks because they want to know actually grams of intake, right? And so we put it all there for everybody to see.
So if anybody has brought their dog to Bay State recently, before we officially took Nobl in, we were able to get some samples and we handed them out in the store.
Sure.
So if anybody has brought their dog recently, has got a sample, and 100 out of 100 dogs loved it. Every single dog loved it. And you were right. Like, they're literally licking the floor for the crumbs. They want more.
Yeah. And you'll see, and it's what a lot of people need to realize is dogs, cats, pigs, chickens. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? Yep. They eat to their nutrient requirements, which are amino acids and things of that nature. Well, because we formulate for grams of intake, not decimal point nutrition, that's how they get there with that smaller bar versus them having to eat a bunch of whatever to get there. Yeah. And so once people get past, if their dog's a 25-pound dog going from 1 bar versus 2 sandwich bags of whatever, once they get past that in their mind, they'll realize their dog is actually fine and satiated. And they're ready to go out. And more importantly, the landmines are a lot smaller and easier to pick up.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can say this without sounding weird, but the smell of your product, the aroma of it is unbelievable as well. It smells appealing. I'm not going to lie. It does smell appealing, even to me. and I don't know. I know I probably sound weird saying that, but I'm around dog.
You're not the first.
I'm around dog food all the time. I'm around all different types of dog food, and this is the only stuff I opened it. I'm like, wow.
Well, you got to remember, right? Is we're not coating it in fat, right? Which brings an aroma. We're not adding a palatant, which is usually hydrolyzed chicken liver, hydrolyzed pork, which is going to give you different between the two different meaty smells competing against each other, right? And we're not adding anything else to it that's going to compete for that aroma. So you're literally getting meat, liver, and a fruit vegetable blend. And so, we're not masking anything. And usually when you're smelling that kibble and you open it up, it's usually the fat or the palatant is what you're getting a whiff of, and then the secondary smell is, well, what's really that kibble that's smelling, and then also, how long has it been sitting in the bags, right? Yeah. Because of when you coat it on the outside, they have the potential to oxidize quicker. When you build it as a whole bar, you don't have that issue, especially when it's freeze dried as well.
So we did get another question.
Sure.
Well, first, right off the bat, I'm going to put this up. Let's see. Andrea, I'm not tasting it. It might smell good. but I am not going to taste it. I think that might be where my weirdness will end. So I'll just leave it at that.
I've tasted many products, so it's not a challenge on my side. In fact, for cat foods, you can, which it's good when you're in the industry, is you can literally take it and test and taste it, and you can tell real quick if the cat and dogs are going to like it, so you can avoid doing any animal testing. So obviously for those of us in trade, you learn pretty quickly what cats and dogs like from an aroma and taste standpoint.
So we do have one question here. She said that she has a dog who's allergic to feathered animals.
Yep.
Are you making any plans on just having like a straight beef one?
Yeah, so we're not doing just a straight beef one because of so prior to you might have missed out on it, Lori.
Yeah.
So we don't believe in beef splitting all the way down the line, as such as fact as beef heart, beef lung, beef kidney, beef whatever to get that protein there. We use meats and livers. That's why it's designed the way it is. We do have a vegan bar, which is coming out. The digestibility is actually higher than most kibbles out there, and it's clinically proven, 85%, 90%, and it's over 30% protein. We did that as a pause because we started getting a lot of requests like yours, and we don't want to be that company that has a proliferation of SKUs just because, right, of the latest, greatest exotic protein. But I can tell you that we're looking to make a fish variety and a couple others that do make sense. But we won't be getting into bison and things of that nature.
All that exotic stuff.
Because me personally, I don't want to be the A through Z portfolio guy. I want honestly the 4 foot of shelf space in your store, and it turns quickly. Right? Because I did it right with that 4 foot of space. And so what most people don't realize, and they go, ooh, when they hear vegan, is we did it for a reason, because there's no animal proteins in there. So people who do have the issues, if you actually look at the quote unquote zero allergen foods that you buy at the vet clinic, whether it be Purina or RC, they're actually hydrolyzed vegan foods. And then they add all the synthetics after that. We were able to do it, keep the digestibility high, keep the ME high, and maintain all the nutrients that we wanted to, with a short ingredient list, with the exception of 5 nutrients. 3 of them do come from outside the US. We tell you, vitamin A, right, comes from Sweden, because vitamin A typically comes from liver. That's why we add it. Methionine, taurine, and carnitine, right? Because those guys typically come from heart and meat, so we add them. And then obviously calcium and phosphorus, because we don't have bone. It's the equivalent, and that's so we hit that pause button to do that. Mainly keep them in your store and keep people paying high prices for products that doesn't fit the lifestyle, right? And it's not an over processed food. Everything is ground. In fact, we actually add some water so we could freeze dry and keep the form.
So to answer her question, then she can just feed the vegan one.
Absolutely. Yep. And all the nutrients and stuff are already out there. So if you want to look at it, check it out. If you have questions, you can shoot them through Kevin or ultimately through our website. We can answer them for you. But that would be your immediate alternative. And you can eat. And by the way, the palatability is good on that. We've actually tasted it or tested it against in people's homes versus other freeze-dried meat foods, and they chose ours, which is cool. But yeah, we've done all the proper homework on that. And again, I'd love to say, hey, we did it from a sustainability standpoint, but we literally did it as a hit the pause, because we knew a bunch of requests were coming in for, hey, my dog can't eat this, my dog can't eat that. And so we did that. We did it right. That's actually been 2.5 years in the making. And it's literally launching into this month. So when you get it, it'll literally be the first time.
So Andrea, obviously, if you want to bring your dog in tomorrow, I still have plenty of samples here. If anybody watching wants to bring in your dog tomorrow, feel free. I still have plenty of samples, and I'm not kidding. every dog has, sometimes when we have like a free sample in the store, a dog, especially when there's so many smells and so many noises going on, they'll nibble at it and put it down and look around and smell around. These dogs, they go right at it. They gobble it up as if they've never eaten before. So
what it's funny because that you say that. When we originally started out, we only sold the individually wrapped bars, right?
Yeah.
And we still do because it's a good trial sample, but also when you travel, people will buy these because it's easier to stick 3 of these in their backpack versus taking the 3 out of the bulk bag, right?
Yeah.
But when we first started, we only sold individual bars, and we did sample jars like what you have. People would take the sample out to the car, and then they'd come back in and buy 3 bars. And the next thing you know, they were buying the cases of bars, which screwed up the shelf space. And so the bulk bars were actually a response from the retailers that said, hey, I'm tired of freaking restocking the shelves.
Yeah.
And consequently, obviously, when you buy it in bulk, it's less packaging, so the price comes down per feeding. But yeah, so it's we've had even the quote unquote finicky ones that are eaters. In fact, there's a couple companies I've helped formulate their human grade and raw stuff and things of that nature, and people used our stuff to put on top as a topper to get them to eat. And then when I told them, here's what the price of the bar is, here's the price of what you're paying plus the bar. Obviously they made the change. But yeah, it's very common, and people will use it as a topper too. So there's lots of ways they can use it. It's not just hey, you go to this. People will also use it for when they travel. So you might be feeding raw all the time, and you don't want to take a cooler full of food with you.
Yeah.
Right? And so what they'll do is they'll take this, no transition required because it's the same meat content, everything else, and they'll do that. And in fact, one of the groups that we actually have growing right now are canine units, because they can feed it on the go. They don't have to bring the dogs back to the police precinct or home to feed them. They can feed them out in the field. So yeah,
we'll have to talk more about that, me and you, in the future, because we deal a lot with some of the canine units around here. So
yeah, I actually did a digestibility article on this guy not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
My father was retired. He was also 9/11 first responder, Port Authority police officer. So police, it's a nice way for me to hit 220
service from us. So
yeah, but more than happy to talk to you and give you information for them, because I know the chiefs and different groups, how they interact. They get a little squirrely when you're introducing new foods.
Oh yeah.
But Nicole Kamek out of North Point Pets, she does a lot of referrals and stuff, and her husband is a canine officer. Her dad was as well, so she can help you, and we can put you in contact with her as far as how to communicate and all that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to take one more question, and then we'll start wrapping it up. I'm not sure, Ryan, where your expertise line ends. So I don't know if you're able to answer this question, but
I'm not afraid to say I don't know. So I'm all right with that.
Well, that's the great thing about us. We, as everyone knows, like if I don't know an answer, I'll tell you, but I will do what I can to try to find an answer for you.
Sure. I'm the same person. So yeah, we're cut from the same stone.
So Caitlin has a 100-pound horse, apparently.
Yeah, sounds like it.
He's a little overweight.
Yeah.
How should she feed him? Should she feed him based off of what his weight should be, or based off of what he weighs now?
Yeah, so great question. And the reason why I say it's a great question, because this is usually why you see most weight loss studies fail in dogs, right? And so, just to geek out for a second. So I'm the inventor of Metabolic for Hills, right? It's their number one seller weight loss product. And behind that went genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and all of the crazy science that, people gloss over. But what you should always do when you're feeding for weight loss is feed for their ideal weight. So you don't feed for their current weight, which is confusing on the label because it never tells you that, right? It tells you, hey, feed to here. You really want to feed for their ideal weight. But at the same time, you got to control it, because you want them to be targeting a 1 to 2% body weight loss per week. You don't want it to be aggressive. Just like for the same reasons you don't want it in humans, right? It's unhealthy. So that's something you could certainly work on with your veterinarian, and set up a program, because I think having somebody who give you access to, in your case, a big scale. I have a Boston Terrier, so I can hold her and step on my scale. I probably could with your dog, but I probably need some leave later on in the day. But yeah, great question. The answer is you should feed to ideal weight, regardless of what the food is you're doing a weight loss program. And you should target 1 to 2% body weight loss per week. And the reason you do that, again, is to do it from a health standpoint. And B, you want them to lose fat. You don't want them to lose muscle mass as well. And by them having the information for our food and being able to calculate out kcals per kilogram and intake and all that stuff with that sheet that's on our website, they can work with you to do exactly that. If that's the route you want to go, they might want you to go on a prescription food for a while, because not knowing, right? A lot of people don't realize an obese animal is in an inflammation state, right? And so there could be other things going on.
Exactly. It's not a matter of just being overfed.
Yeah, that's why you want to engage the vet immediately, because lots of times you want to catch those. Unfortunately, many of them won't talk to you about obesity until those secondary issues hit, whether it be arthritis or dental disease or whatever. So which kudos to you, you're admitting that he or she is slightly overweight. If you're seeing it, I would have the conversation with the veterinarian, so they can check and make sure there's nothing else going on. Because if there is, obviously you might want to treat that other thing first. They do have, just like we do. Hey, I have gland issues, right? They do too. But you want to make sure they don't have arthritis or something else that's ongoing with it. Because those other things you're going to want to catch sooner than later, because obviously the weight loss will help. But if you can catch the other stuff and react to it on the front end, it just only helps in that whole process. But yeah, good question.
And not to scare you, Caitlin, because it could end up just being the pandemic pounds too.
You could just have a fat dog. And the reality of it is a lot of people tell you get exercise with the dog, but you got to do both. It's really the caloric restriction of intake and the activity. But don't feel bad that your dog got overweight. There's, the reality of it is in the U.S., overweight and obese animals are over 60%, both dogs and cats, and matches up very close to humans.
Wow, really?
And that's nothing new. That was when I started industry back, 20 years ago. So, it is what it is. And the sooner you deal with it, just like with me, right? You go on cholesterol meds, or I get my fat ass out there, right? It's like, I'm going to go out there, and so it doesn't hurt. Like I said, go to vet, they'll pull a traditional chem screen or whatever, just make sure everything's hunky dory. And then you have a discussion. Hey, what's the right weight and how do we get there? But you always feed to ideal weight.
Perfect. All right. So I think that's all that we have for this episode. So we have 2 giveaways to do today. I'm going to have you help me with my Easter giveaway also. So I had people do an Easter egg hunt on our website on Easter.
All right.
Yeah, the ones that found the Easter eggs, they had to send in and let me know what colors they were. So I'm going to have you help me pick a winner for that.
Sure.
And actually, the winner for the shirt and mug is pretty easy. We got 13. We have 13 people that sent in an answer, but only one person got it right.
Oh,
so I'll
very cool.
I'll be texting them shortly to let them know that they won. And actually, someone else texted that the answer was Nobl food bars. So so that person too is also. I have something for them too because I have to give them that.
We can do 2 shirts and 2 mugs. That's no problem. That's no problem.
So just so everyone knows, the answer to what is a dog's favorite breakfast, woofles.
Nice.
Woofles. Awesome. And for the Easter egg hunt, all right. So pick a number between 1 and 22, Ryan.
Let's go with. Hopefully, I don't get haters out of this. I'm going to go with 8.
Number 8. All right. So we have Aaron Booms. Aaron Booms, congratulations. I'll be emailing you shortly. You won the. Oh, no, actually, I was supposed to pick 2 winners. That's right. The Easter egg hunt was 2 winners. So, Aaron Booms, you're one of our winners. And then if you want to pick another one for me, Ryan.
Sure. I'll go with, since it's the day of my second vaccine, we'll go 20.
Number 20. And we have Pauline Ellis. Pauline Ellis, congratulations. Awesome. So I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Dr. Yamka, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Hey, thank you for having me. And, if you want to just chat nutrition at another point, more than happy to do so. It doesn't have to be Nobl focused. So we can.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love that.
Even just simply open it up to live Q&A if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I come from a world of, I believe in, I educate, I don't advocate or humiliate. So whatever they're feeding, they can keep on feeding, but I'll teach you the right questions to ask.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to plan that for the future for sure. Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for having me, and looking forward to getting those shirts out and getting some feedback on the food.
Oh, we have one more question. So yeah, they are available on our website, and Ryan is actually helping us out, and we're going to put them on sale. The single bars are going to be buy 2, get 1 free from now until midnight. So. Yeah.
And to answer the nutritional analysis question, simply go to our website, Nobl Foods, all one word, NOBLFOODS.com. You scroll down to literally the section is titled Nothing to Hide, Everything to Share. And under the food preference you want, just hit the fact sheet and it'll pop right up. And you'll have everything you want to know about the food and stuff you probably don't care about.
Well, I'm sure, everyone really does care about where the food comes from for their pets. Maybe not so us, but for the pets for sure.
Absolutely. So you'll see the ingredients and the nutrients. And the one thing I will tell you is, and you won't see it on our packaging, you won't see it on our website. We don't do claims. So you won't see any marketing claims. I'm not a fan of puffery claims and structure function claims and confusion on the bag. We keep it clean and simple, and obviously we're very much in the mindset of when you try it, you'll buy it and you stick with it because of the way it performs.
Yep. Kick the crap out of kibble.
We did.
Nice and simple.
In fact, when the shirts come out, it'll say it on the back as well.
Oh, will it? Oh, that's
awesome. Make sure Lucas gets you one too.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll have to pull some strings there to try to get myself one. So
absolutely. In fact, we even have mugs with a dog holding a martini glass saying, "I don't do kibble." So we can.
No way. Is that a mug that's going to be coming?
Yeah,
or is that?
We got it. We can send you one. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. All right.
Same here. You do the same. Thanks again, Kevin.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching another episode. If you have any suggestions on what I should do for a future episode, let me know. As always, my name is Kevin. I'll put my email down below. And if you have any questions or anything at all, just let me know. And I will talk to you all later. Have a good night. Stay safe.